Hey, Mike with Nerd Problems Gaming here, the channel where we go through the good and bad of everything nerdy to make sure you spend your time on the best of the best. In today's video, I'll be going through games I'm playing right now, so let's get into it. So in the games I'm playing series, I talk about games I'm playing right now. Some of them I've beaten, some of them I've played several times, others I've just played a couple hours, so it's going to be more of my first impressions on the game. Some of these I have done full reviews on, but others that's more to come. But with that being said, let's jump into the games I'm playing right now. So the first game on the list is Metroid Dread, and I've been a Metroid fan for years, been playing since the original NES. And so to see this return to form of going back to an old school 2D Metroid game, I was super pumped to see that. And I also wanted to see how it was going to play on the Nintendo Switch. So in recent years, the 2D Metroids have really been limited to portable systems from Nintendo and have come out on things like the Game Boy Advance and then also the 3DS with the recent remake of Metroid 2. And so I really enjoyed that game on the 3DS, but I felt some of the control aspects were a little bit clunky and a little bit difficult to pull off with the 3DS, especially the counters within the game. And so that's a new feature that's returned to this game in Metroid Dread, but so far I really like it. Where again, you're using a typical controller versus trying to position your hands effectively around a 3DS. So it makes it a little bit simpler to perform these counter moves and all the various abilities that you have by having a Pro Controller at your disposal versus trying to awkwardly map that to the 3DS. Now, like I said, the game is true to form and some of the basic story elements of the game. It continues from Metroid Fusion, and so this is the 5th Metroid game in the series. But if you don't really understand that background story, that's okay. They sprinkle bits and pieces of it throughout this game as well so far. So the basic premise that starts off the story is the Galactic Federation receives a video of an X-Parasite which was thought to be wiped out in previous Metroid games. So they send these high-tech ME robots, they're called, which are highly weaponized and are supposed to be able to take on the threat. But quickly they lose contact with these robots, and you being the only bounty hunter that can survive the X-Parasite are sent on this mission to see what happened and why they've lost contact with the robots. And so again, this game features the 2D Metroidvania, or Metroid in this case, style gameplay, where you're exploring the maps, unlocking new abilities, and defeating monsters while solving puzzles along the way. And so like I said, there's a lot more unique abilities to this game, but also bringing back some of the classics. And so far I'm really enjoying the game. One thing that I think is really cool is it kind of switches back and forth between 2D and 3D. And so a lot of the environments look great, but when you encounter key points in the game like bosses or story elements, it'll shift into that 3D, current gen looking graphics. And so it's a really cool combination of the two. And I've really liked that so far. I'm excited to explore the rest of the game and stay tuned for a full review once I've had some more time to play it. Now the next game on the list is Back 4 Blood. And to my understanding, this game is made by the original creators of Left 4 Dead in that series. And that's one of my favorite zombie games of all time. And so I was excited to see this game come out. And I've played a few hours of it so far, the campaign. But honestly, I'm a little bit disappointed so far. Now certainly I haven't played through every aspect of the game, so it might improve as I play more of it, but so far it feels like an Xbox 360 era playing on current gen systems. It's really glitchy so far as I've gone through it, and they did try and update some of the game mechanics and modernize it a bit, but it just feels really awkward to me. Like an example is you get these decks that you can build to power up your character, and you unlock new cards as you go and explore, but it just feels kind of clunky and a weird way to power up your character to me, and I haven't really enjoyed it so far. Lots of times too, I kind of felt like I was lost as I was going through the maps. It didn't really feel like there was much clear direction on where I was supposed to go as I was playing, and I guess that kind of added to the intensity a little bit, but I always felt like I was second guessing myself the entire time, and that led me to not really enjoy the experience as much. Now, like other Left 4 Dead games that this game is similar to, you have the ability to play with 3 other players in a party of 4 going through the various campaign missions, or you can take it on solo and have these additional characters be bot controlled. But again, the AI wasn't the best when I was playing with bots. It was playable, but definitely not the same experience as if you were playing with other players. There were upgrade options to weapons, but they just seemed to be skin customizations at this point from what I noticed. But you could pick up different power-ups to equip on guns through the playthrough. And so it's kind of randomized every time because you draw different cards. You also have negative aspects that you encounter that make the gameplay a little bit more challenging. You gotta try and counterbalance that as you go through the missions. But again, maybe I'm just not used to the game mechanics at this point. point, but it just kind of felt clunky and awkward to me as I played so far versus the Left 4 Dead type experience I'm used to. But definitely stay tuned for a full review on this game once I've had more time to play it and get through the full campaign. In my opinion, might change at that point once I have more time with the game. But so far, I would say definitely just pick this up on Game Pass if you have that versus maybe buying the full game. The next game on the list is Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Scrawlers Heroes of Undermountain. So we recently did a full review on this game on our channel, and it's been a blast so far. It's really easy to learn, and it's a pretty unique concept where it combines dungeon crawling with a maze racing game. And so it sounds a little bit crazy, but the premise of the game is that you're going through these different dungeons, and you have a dungeon map in front of you, and you're playing against other players in order to score the most points and collect the most treasure and defeat the most monsters as you go through each dungeon. And so each dungeon only takes 1 or 2 minutes to go through, but you'll use dry erase markers to go through the maze, and you'll scribble out enemies to defeat them, cast spells as you go through, unlock doors, save prisoners, and more. And so it's kind of like a compact dungeon crawling experience that maybe takes 15 to 20 minutes to play a game session, and it's really easy to learn. So if you want to get kind of your first taste of Dungeons and Dragons and those RPG elements, but without the huge learning curve, I'd recommend checking out Dungeon Scrawlers Heroes of Undermountain. But if you'd like to learn more about this game, check out my full review here on the channel, and if you'd like to pick up a copy, there'll be links in the description below where you can do so as well. Alright, the next game on my list is Clank, the deck building adventure. And this is one of my favorite deck building games. If you've watched the channel for a while, this is one of my favorite types of games. So in this game, you're playing as a bunch of different thieves that are competing in a contest of who can get the most treasure out of this dungeon that contains a fire-breathing, vicious dragon. The good news is for now, the dragon is asleep, but the more noise that you make exploring through the dungeon, grabbing your artifacts and treasure, the more likely the dragon is to wake up and attack everyone playing the game. And so it's a cool deck building game where again you power up your thieves by getting more treasure, building your deck, which can allow you to draw more cards, take more actions, move swiftly through the dungeon, and defeat the monsters there, all while trying to not wake the dragon and beat the other players with the most treasure. Depending on how many players you're playing with, it might take 30 minutes to maybe an hour and a half, depending on how many players you have. But the game is a blast. It has a high replay value. There's 2 sides to the board, so you can switch between an easier mode and a more difficult mode. And again, every time you build your deck, it's a totally new experience as you go through the dungeon. And I highly recommend checking out Clank the board game. If you want to learn more about this game or pick up a copy, there'll be links in the description below where you can do so as well. Alright, the next game on the list is Gradius HD. And so this is a side-scrolling arcade space shooter that has been remastered in HD on Nintendo Switch. And so it plays again like your typical side-scrolling space shooter where you pick up various power-ups to improve your ship's firepower. You're blasting enemies as they come across on screen, but you also fight various huge bosses as well. Now it comes with the original arcade version, but also this HD remaster. I played them both a little bit so far, but I definitely like the HD remaster better. Things just look a little bit more crisp and seem to play a bit more smoothly as you go through the game. But one thing so far that's really cool with the game is it has a unique element where you can capture enemies, and that kind of morphs into more abilities, bringing those ships onto your side. And so as you're going through the different shooting levels, like I said, there's various different enemies that are flying and coming at you constantly, and so you can really mix and match your abilities depending on which one of these ships you decide to capture and bring along with you. Another cool element is that once you beat a level, it goes into kind of different branching paths, so you can go a bunch of different routes after each level. And again, this really creates a high replay value as you play through the game. So far the game's challenging, but at the same time, since it's an arcade port, you can really just add as many credits as you want and have pretty much unlimited lives as you play. So some aspects are challenging, but you can definitely get through the game because it really has unlimited credits. And when you die off all your guys, you can just restart exactly where you were. So I guess the challenge kind of comes down to how many credits are you going to give yourself as you play through the game. This HD remake version also has some cool additional features like achievements and save states where you don't necessarily have to beat the whole game in one sitting. But so far I like it, and definitely stay tuned for a full review of the game once we've had some more time to play it. But again, let me know in the comments below if you've played any of these games so far, now that you've seen a bit about them. If you're going to pick any of these up, let me know in the comments below. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And if you haven't done so yet, be sure to subscribe and turn on the bell notifications to get the latest updates of new nerd videos we put out. And if you'd like to help pick out content, support the channel, channel and more, become a patron of ours at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Patreon. And if you'd like to plug into our live streams and Let's Plays we do on the channel, you can follow us over on Twitch at nerdproblemsgaming.com/Twitch. But once again, thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you more soon.